Welcome to the Upshot, Multi-World Disc Golf's podcast about the latest in the disc golf world. I'm the editor, Charlie Eisenhood. Joining me is Josh Mansfield. It's Thursday, January 30th. On Tuesday, I said, maybe we'll have something to talk about on Thursday. Yes, we do. It is official. Ricky Wysocki is gone from Dynamic Discs with a year to go on his contract. Kona Montgomery also parting ways with DD a year early. Josh, these contracts looked a little sketchy when they were signed back in the very peak of the market. And clearly DD feels the same way and pulled the eject cord on these contracts. We don't have the details of exactly how the termination of these contracts happened, whether they had some sort of get out clause or if they had to buy out the players. But either way, they will not be representing DD in 2025. And now we wait to find out where they're going to land.
Yeah, it's, like you talked about, we were a little bit skeptical when those deals were signed. But given the state of the market, it felt like, especially that year, and maybe even the next year, sure, they probably can make back some value on that. But last year especially, it just felt like there was no shot that DD was making their money back on, what was $1.25 million of worth of money, or I guess it was $1 million, and then Kona's was $125,000 a year. There's just no way that those were returning the ROI to cover those costs last year. And so I don't know what percentage, they talked the 4-year, $4 million. I wasn't sure, we never really knew if that was $4 million guaranteed money or if it was, royalties included. Was the buyout just a guaranteed amount? You have to think, though, that they are definitely saving themselves some money by making this move. I've seen a lot of people online post DD in shambles kind of messaging. And I mean, I can understand. It's funny. I can understand why people have that sentiment, but
it's been a brutal stretch for DD.
It has been a brutal stretch. It has been a brutal stretch. But this one to me is obvious. This is, yes, there's no way these are making money. So of course they should drop these deals. So I think that any company, if they were getting this kind of ROI on a deal that's $1 million, are going to try and get out of that. And so I didn't see this as a particular, we need to press the panic button. Maybe I already pressed the panic button for them, but this doesn't raise the temperature for me on DD.
This was priced in.
Yeah.
This was coming.
Yes.
It's been telegraphed for months that it's coming. The rumors about Ricky leaving DD have been around for at least 6 weeks, if not longer. Ricky must really, he likes to talk to his friends, I think, about stuff because, man, anytime he does something, it's telegraphed way in advance. And even he tries to make it seem like things are fine,
We had people telling us that they'd heard that he's staying. Yeah.
I think, look, everybody's saying the right thing. DD's coming out and saying, thank you so much for everything you've done. Kona and DD embarked on an exciting journey during a time of significant growth in the sport. We collaborated on engaging social media campaigns and innovative new products. After careful reflection and extensive discussions, we have mutually decided to part ways for the 2025 season. Ricky and DD have mutually agreed to part ways in 2025. It's been truly remarkable. Deeply grateful for his contributions to the brand. We celebrated over 20 victories, et cetera, et cetera. I think
mutually agreed to part ways means we're going to cut your deal in half, or you can take this nice buyout, and then, or we have an exit clause that we're going to enforce.
I truly wonder that without seeing the contract, it's impossible to know.
It is
because if it was pretty clearly laid out that Ricky was going to get his $1 million, no matter what, then the only thing that they could really do is say, if we have to pay you this $1 million, we're going to go bankrupt. So you either take this or you get nothing. I doubt, I think it's probably more likely that it's was hey, this really isn't working for us. We just we're losing money on this. It's been a really tough run. How can we come to terms to get out of this deal? But also, it is possible that the contract had some out clause if, whether that was on-course performance or sales performance wasn't meeting a certain threshold. And so then they might be able to say, hey, like, you didn't hit these thresholds, we're cutting bait. And everything says mutually agreed, which probably means there was some settlement payment of some kind to buy out the contract for the final season. So, look, to me, I basically agree with you. And I did about almost an hour talking about this in our subscriber bonus segment Inside the Circle yesterday. So get a subscription and check that out. Join the Discord. I basically feel like this is the rational choice for everybody involved. I mean, Kona, I'm sure, would rather just get the money given her circumstances. But, like, Rick might make more money with another company. It's possible. Because the move has value in the marketplace, as we've seen so many times.
I don't know if there's any player that commands $1 million this year, though.
I mean, you might be right. I mean, what? World champ, back-to-back world champ got $175 a year?
Yeah, no shot.
You're probably right.
$1 million?
I mean, that's why I think maybe was Ricky ever worth $1 million?
I think that's a very fair question.
I've seen a lot of people say, like, oh, Didi blew it. The marketing hasn't been good enough. The stamps, the this, the that. And there's probably some truth to that.
Sure.
I think there's also some truth to, like, Ricky is, like, he's a little bit of a polarizing player. So it's, like, he's not going to sell discs as effortlessly as Macbeth did when he made his big deal at Discraft. But part of that is, like, the kinds of discs that were released by Discraft compared to what Didi did for Ricky. And, like, so there's a combination of elements, but I do really genuinely wonder whether, like, there was ever $1 million of value in, like, marginal additional sales attributable to Ricky.
I don't know. But to your point, like, what did the Macbeth line include, right? The first disc was the Luna, a straight flying putter.
Yep.
That's fairly shallow, like super usable by anybody. You have the Malta, which is like a slightly overstable mid.
Athena, Onyx, Hades.
The Onyx, a controllable 10 speed. I loved those discs when I couldn't, like, and when I wasn't throwing that far. The Hades, right? Flippy. Ricky's throwing the Wysocki Bomb Slammer, which is a brick.
Max stability, everything.
Yeah, you got the Enforcer, which is like the 13404. You got a Felon, and then you got the 7-speed that's like a 7403. That was the Ricky lineup.
Right. Yeah.
I get that's what Ricky throws, but it's not what everyone else wants to throw.
Yeah.
Weird choice.
I mean, like, Wysocki Bomb General, a powerful new overstable distance driver. 12404.
Congratulations. Another one. Gosh.
And, like, on infinite discs, just, like, I mean, a lot of people complaining about the price. Basically the stock run of these right now is $26.
Jeez.
And they were $30 at one point. And, like, you're combining an extremely nosebleed price with a disc that's really not meant for, what, 75% of players probably? Maybe higher?
Higher.
85% of players? A lot of people say it's not quite as stable as the numbers, which is like a typical DD.
12403, like,
yeah.
How many players have any business throwing that?
Ricky Wysocki, this is the description on the Infinite website. Ricky Wysocki describes the General as the pushing hyzer disc we all needed. We all needed. You needed.
Right.
And look, at the end of the day, players getting the discs built for what they need to succeed on the course is the correct, like, concept for the disc companies to be worked. Like, if they don't have the right disc for Ricky to throw a driver that he loves, they need to build him one, whether or not it sells great. It just, to me, it's like all together, it's like a lot of super stable stuff. And, like, that's where Macbeth differentiates himself, because I think Macbeth goes to Discraft and says, I want an understable distance driver that, like, At most, he's throwing as a roller, or it just isn't even in his bag.
Yeah.
But he knows it's going to sell.
Yep, exactly.
He bought a car and put a Hades license plate on it because he sold so many Hades that he could buy a frickin' McLaren.
You tell me Ricky didn't sell that many Generals? He's not driving around in the General
At
Corvette?
$30 a disc, what are we talking about here?
Maybe he only sold 10 and bought his Corvette. Let's be real.
Oh my gosh.
Hey, here's the other thing too.
The greedy overreach of like 2024 DD is just like they deserve to get burned.
The other thing that you can do though, take the General and release it with a little brother, right? So the Ricky General, the Lieutenant, and then release it with the Lieutenant that's an 11403 and say, look, Ricky needs the top tier power. We recognize that we also need the everyman's disc as well. Try them both. Find which one fits your bag. Sell them in a combo pack.
Yeah.
People love the Lieutenant because it's an overstable, but it's a little bit smaller. So people, feel like make it a 10403, a PD, right? And call it the Lieutenant and sell that. And boom.
Combo pack for $32.
There you go. Well, that's Charlie. That means they're only making $2 on the Lieutenant, though. Because everyone's buying the General at 30. But yeah, you put them together, and then
listen. You're right. Mistakes were made, but it was always going to be a stretch. And paying just for performance is not what you need.
Yep.
Paying for popularity is what you need. It's why I think MVP has been so smart in the sponsorship marketplace. So the question is, where will they land? Obvious possible landing spots for Kona. Innova.
Mm-hmm.
She used to be sponsored by them. She had her best seasons with them. And her father is the marketing manager, basically. So that would make sense.
Makes sense.
Endless daycare bugs, man. Or Discmania, right?
Yeah.
Colton,
husband.
You make a
Husband's
simple,
family.
small deal.
Yeah.
It would make sense. And maybe Infinite.
Sure.
Or Tips or Zips or whatever the hell we... that would also make sense. Any of those.
Yeah.
For Rick, there's nobody besides Discraft or MVP that has the dollars, I don't think. There's a 0% chance he goes back to Innova, given how that relationship ended.
Yep.
He's too big of a star to be an Infinite guy.
Or a Prodigy.
Oh, yeah, no.
Yeah.
They don't have the money for that.
They don't have the money. Yeah.
And there's been literally no conversations outside of Discraft. That's been all the rumors.
Rumors.
That's my expectation.
Me too. Yep. That's been all over Reddit. It's crazy because, a month ago, 2 months ago, I would have said, no way Ricky goes to the same place as Macbeth. But
Okay, hang on really quick. Just going back to this. May 16th comment from Robbie G.
like 8 months ago.
Yeah, this is a disc that you wonder why it exists. At a price point of $32.99, $32.99, I can't see very many players actually buying this disc unless they are diehard Saki Bomb fans. This is a fast and overstable distance driver, and very few players are going to have an actual use for this disc. This flies very similar to a PD2, Nuke OS, Conqueror, Enforcer, or Hypercane. Fast, low glide, and great for headwinds. I don't see many players using this disc unless they're throwing over 400 feet. $32.99.
Should have sold the Lieutenant, man.
Unreal. Dude, they brought in the people from outside of disc golf who said, oh, well, we'll just raise the prices. And everybody... Do you realize how much competition and choice there is in the marketplace, folks?
Yep.
These discs they're commodities. The difference between these discs is not that big, despite what people will try to make you feel. That's just ridiculous. Greed. Okay. let's talk about some other DD stuff.
Okay.
They just signed Evan Smith.
Yeah, they did.
Love it.
Love it.
This DD makes two smart moves.
Yep.
They cut the contract weight that was burdening them, and they sign Parker Welk. Cheap deal, not much risk there. And then they sign what is for sure the most underrated player on the planet right now in Evan Smith.
And they
Evan
probably
Smith,
did it. They probably did it for less guaranteed money than they were going to pay Kona this year.
I'm sure that's true. 22nd on tour. 11th in average finish on tour among players with at least 10 starts. 11th. The only guys above him are the heaviest hitters, whose names you know. The Calvins, the Isaacs, the Gannons, the ABs. And he touched 1040 rated this season. Multiple top 10 finishes on tour. And he has under 4,000 Instagram followers. This is like the biggest buy low opportunity. I couldn't believe that there wasn't more like fanfare around where he was going to land, because I think that we are early on the hype train a little bit here, but I think there's a very good chance that people are going to really learn his name over the next 12 months.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. Well, and we get to talk to Evan.
We sure do.
And it was great.
Evan Smith is going to join us next, right here on the Upshot. The Upshot is presented by Pound Disc Golf, makers of the best bags in the sport. Again, I'm telling you, you got to go check out all of these new Octothorpe redesign videos on the social channels from Pound. There's a video out about version 6 through 8. Just, you can see how precise they are in thinking about how to make the bag as functional as possible. I mean, they're talking about removing 3/4 of an inch from a piece of the fabric in order to make the cell phone pocket fit a little bit better. I mean, that is the level of detail and thinking that is going into these bags. We'll show you a couple clips right now from that V6 to V8 video, and you can check out the whole thing over on Pound Disc Golf's Facebook or Instagram page. PoundDiscGolf.com for all your bag needs.
Discs at the edges of the bag are harder to get in and out. They fight you a little bit, but part of that is a result of this extra strip of fabric that we have here, which is very much so on purpose. If we had run this zipper right into this seam like some other companies do, the problem with that is it creates a lot of wear on the zipper itself, and then you gotta end up replacing that down the line. So we're avoiding that right out of the gates. We always have made the design that way. And on both sides, not just on one side, you've got this disc retriever system where you can just pull that down and pop it over that Velcro, and then you can take a disc retriever and slide it in that elastic, and it will protect the disc retriever from rubbing on the zipper in that whole area where the disc retriever extends out of that long pocket.
Joining us now on the Upshot is Evan Smith. Just announced a new one-year deal with Dynamic Discs, moving over from Clash to DD. And Evan, it's so great to have you on the program. We've been talking about your rise on tour and how well you've been playing a lot this season. And so a pleasure to have you on. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Yeah, it's been kind of crazy last, few months, I guess, since like halfway through the season, I guess.
I guess I'd love to hear you expand on that. You did have some really strong finishes, multiple top 10s down the stretch of the year. Do you feel like your game found a new level at some point this season?
I don't know about that. I think my mental game found a better level. Just my preparation wasn't as strict. I could react to different scenarios. If a lot of times we practice these courses and in, like calm conditions, and then you get to the tournament and it's raining, or like it's like 40-mile-an-hour winds, and like my game up until like preserve, I think, just like wouldn't translate to that. Like I remember practicing like Waco, and it was like super calm conditions. Then we get to the tournament and I'm playing in like 40 degrees, and like it's like super cold and like super windy at the same time, and it's just like, what happened? Like this is not the same course that I practiced. So I don't know. Probably just a mental hurdle, honestly. But yeah.
What was the change in terms of your preparation that let you adjust for that? Because as hard as you may try, dealing with 40-mile-an-hour wind is not something that you can just simulate on your own, right? You can't just picture the wind and that takes care of it.
Yeah. So I remember, my putting got a lot better since like the start of the season. So I think I started the first like 4 events, like through like Music City or maybe even Champions Cup. And like I was putting like 76% or something like that from like Circle 1. And then like I ended the year at like 87 or something like that. So like the rest of the year I was putting probably like closer to 90, like 91 maybe. And so like the confidence there just like grew. And then I actually listened to like a lot of Bob Rotella books. So if you don't know who Bob Rotella is, he's like a golf kind of psychologist, like a performance expert. And so like he has a good book, which is like Putting Out of Your Mind. And Golf is Not a Game of Perfect. Like both of those are like great books. And they help like help me reframe how I was going about thinking of different shots on the course, which was obviously what I needed. So, yeah.
So you're from North Carolina, a place mostly known for woods golf. How has that shaped your game growing up in Raleigh?
Yeah. So, I guess the easiest way to explain is, so like I was playing a C tier one time, New Year's Eve, right? This is when I'm, 16, 17. It's like one of my first pro events, and I'm on lead card, and you're like, okay, C tier. And this is behind somebody's house, like it's a private course, right? And so you're thinking like, there's like nobody there. I was playing with Barry Schultz, Brian Schweberger, Ken Tyberski, and Nathan Queen. And I was just like, okay, well, like this is kind of crazy, right? It's like, we have like, a 2-time world champion, like here. And then like US champion as well. And like, then like Nathan's like on tour. Like that was when he was like Nathan. Right. And so like, super awesome. Right. And like as a 16, 17-year-old, I'm like, this is crazy. But like that, like North Carolina is like there's no advantage to throwing far in North Carolina. Except that like maybe like 2 courses. So like it's a lot more important to like be accurate, hit your lines, throw the right shapes, and then make every different type of putt that like you can come across. So like I don't know, like I had to learn how to throw hyzers. Like I remember distinctly learning how to throw hyzers, and like it's just not natural for me. Like I'd much rather just throw a flat shot, like maybe a little bit of flex, but like I can't, like I'd much rather just throw like a stall shot than throw an actual hyzer.
That's crazy that like what everyone else's stock shot, like the first thing you learn to do is the one that is that you still just, I would prefer not to throw. So last year, you, like you kind of mentioned, you started out a little bit slow, but by the end, you finished with some really impressive finishes. You have 4th place at D-Glow, you have 3rd place at GMC, and 20th at MVP. So, I mean, just 3 spectacular finishes. And prior to that as well, it went 13th, 13th, 21st, 4th, 3rd, 20th in what is, 2 DGPT Plus events and 2 playoff events. And Worlds, right? So just one of what is the most important stretches of disc golf that we played last year, you really leveled up. Now, you you finished 22nd on the Pro Tour standings, which I was a little surprised about because I remember, that finish kind of picked everything up. Well, you didn't play either the West Coast swing or go to Europe. I'm curious, with this new contract, is that something that you see as more financially viable? Are you planning on making the trip to Europe with the majors? What's your schedule looking like for this season?
Yeah. Well, so you have to be at the majors in order to win them, right? So like, I'm definitely going over to Europe this year. Dynamic's been awesome. Wanted to send me over there. That's something that Clash and I talked about. Like, it felt like every single year it's like, oh, next year we'll get you over. Next year we'll get you over, and it just never quite happened. So with this new contract with Dynamic, definitely going over Europe. I don't know about the West Coast. I think I'm going to fly out to Champions Cup. But it's just like, I think my sister's getting married that month. Like, there's a bunch of stuff happening back home that month. So I'm probably going to end up taking most of May off. That's probably my game plan for the year. So.
Yeah. I mean, another interesting stat. I was looking at it up yesterday when I saw the DD news. You were 11th on tour in average finish for anybody who started at least 10 events. So I think, to me, that shows that had you played a fuller schedule, you would have finished much closer to the top 10. And just some other interesting stats. I mean, you mentioned the Circle 1 putting. You ended up finishing 14th on tour last year. You were 5th in scramble percentage. Is that all from comfort in the woods and line shaping?
Putting is just confidence. That's basically what that is. You like prepare as much as you can, but if you aren't confident, you're not going to make them. And if you're confident but don't prepare, it's like you're not going to make them either. So like there's like a fine balance there. For scrambling is like a lot of like not getting in awful situations, right? And then when you do, understanding like when to pitch out and when not to. Like everybody on tour can throw the like spectacular shot to save the hole or save like birdie or whatever. Like the top 50 players on tour can do that, like, and throw absolutely insane shots. But like understanding like the risk reward factor and like understanding like, is this shot like part of like my game? Like I think that's what scrambling comes down to, and a lot of people like don't or can't convince themselves that it's a bad idea, I guess. So
I want to follow up and what do you see as your like biggest strength as a player? I mean, it's interesting to hear you come on and talk about how you've clearly worked on the mental side of the game and how important that's been. Do you think that's an edge that you have? Because like for instance, I don't know how far you throw. Like you didn't grow up throwing far, so I assume you're not in the top half, or are you tour average, or you say you're below average?
I would say I'm tour average. Like I had like, all right, I can throw 500. Like I can, but like that's like, yeah. Like I threw, all right. So at Preserve last year, I threw my furthest shot ever. I had to range find it in round. That's how far it went. Right. It was like 620, but it was like 40-mile-an-hour tailwind. And so it's like, doesn't actually count. Right. Unfortunately. Right. But no, I would say I'm like tour average. I throw like 470, 480 golf shots. Like I can throw 500, like if I need to, but that's asking a lot for me. But I would say, yeah, definitely like my mental game is, I think I have an edge on everybody, like mentally. And honestly, it's not something that like, once I figured out like how to like focus and like frame things a little bit better, like seeing other people blow up around me, not even blow up, but like get frustrated and stuff, like kind of keeps me like a little bit more locked in, if that makes sense.
Sure. A reminder of what you're doing right.
Yeah.
I want to pivot, and Charlie, if you had more questions about specifically that game, I'm sorry.
No,
Okay,
good.
I wanted to pivot a little bit to the contract discussions here. This is one of the latest contract announcements. How long have you been in talks with DD? When did the ink hit paper? Was there something holding it up? What kind of was that process?
So my agent reached out, and we were like looking around, and he reached out, and he was talking with Seth Finley, and he was like, "Are you interested in throwing Dynamic?" And I was like, "That's intriguing," because like one of my best friends on tour, Ty Love, he's sponsored by Dynamic, and I was like, I know that they make great discs. Like I've seen him throw them. Like I've thrown some of his discs, right? Like so I have experience with the brand, and so. I like messaged some people, messaged Ty, I messaged some other guys just like around, just like kind of like getting a feel. And then my agent did as well. And the offer from Dynamic, like we like worked with Seth a lot on it. But it was probably been in the works for about 2 months, maybe now, 2 months, something like that. So I've had like a decent amount of time with their discs, and like filling out my bag and stuff like that.
Is it? How do you feel about your announcement coming right after the announcement of Ricky and Kona leaving their contract early and the kind of the tumult around DD and House of Discs?
Yeah, so I have nothing but respect for Ricky and all that he's done for Dynamic. I think he's a fantastic player. Every time I played with him last year, like I remember at GMC, he was trying to hunt down Gannon, and obviously things didn't go his way out there. But I mean, he's a competitor, right? And so I wish nothing but the best for him this next year. Him and Kona. I know Kona had like some like health problems over her tenure with Dynamic. So wishing nothing but the best for them in whatever route they choose to do, I guess. Yeah.
Are you excited by the prospect of being the top guy at DD? Or do you wish you had Ricky as well?
So so I was thinking about like this off season, like kind of like where I would like want to go. Right. And I sent my agent like a list of like places, right? Like, hey, here are my like I would want to go like in this order or whatever. And I wanted to go somewhere where it's like, if I'm not the top guy and like, or like if people don't think I'm the top guy, I want to go somewhere where it's like very clear that I could be, right? And like even if that's like I mean like going to like Dynamic and like having Ricky there or something, I feel like I could be that caliber of player. I know I know how hard he works, so it's like I have to work that much harder, right? Put like that much more time in. But if I were to go like for instance, like in like this wasn't ever on the table, but like somewhere like Discraft, right? There's just so many people there. Like it's like, yeah, AB is probably the top player on their team right now, but also you could convince me that like Paul is, or Adam Hammis could be on a weekend, or Ezra on like, or either Ezra on any weekend, right?
Yeah, we have to start distinguishing the Ezras now.
Yeah. And so like I don't know. Like I wanted to go somewhere where it's like not super crowded, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I was just looking at the players above you in the Pro Tour standings from last year, and I didn't look at literally every single person, but I'm pretty sure that you have the fewest Instagram followers of anybody in the top 22. I guess the question here is really like, your level of play is pretty significantly above kind of like your people's knowledge of you, I think. Whether you want to look at social media following or just like generally like people talking about you online. I feel like, and this is like sort of a sub question here, like there's other people who have names similar to yours, and that's been like an actually challenging thing for like me and Josh. We'll sometimes be like, wait, like Aiden Scott, Evan Smith, like we're like, wait, which one is which? And like, I got it now. I have it under control. But like, do you feel like that there's been just like a challenge kind of getting your name out there? Because normally people who are finishing multiple times inside the top 10 are like blowing up online. And maybe that's like a sponsorship thing, or that's just kind of like your personality thing. I'm really curious to hear what you make of this and like what your goals maybe are.
Yeah, I don't know. I've had conversations with Evan Scott, right? And like he seems like a great guy. Aiden and I are actually like friends. So like I don't know. Actually, what's hilarious is so I was leading Des Moines after 2 rounds in 2022, I think. And that like it was like the weird Des Moines where like they had the same cards 2 rounds, right? And I was on like an early card.
Yeah, you finished third, so that makes sense that it was 2022.
Yeah, and so anyway, the top comment on like the highlights or whatever was Brody's leading the tournament. Why doesn't he have any like highlights on it? And I'm just like, come on, like that's just
that's gold,
right? But like, I mean, it is what it is, right? I mean, there's nothing I can do about it, right? In my head, winning fixes everything, right? Whether it's followers on Instagram, whether it's like just like notoriety or whatever. Like at the end of the day, like that's not necessarily why I'm out playing disc golf. Like, I mean, it'd be great to, you know, have like 30,000 followers or 3 million followers or whatever, right? But like, I enjoy playing the sport. Like, I feel like everybody who gets into disc golf is like a disc junkie, right? Like they love throwing plastic, and that's why I'm in the sport. Like, I just love throwing plastic. Yeah.
This offseason's been described by a lot of players as a brutal one to try and obtain a contract that matched either their previous one or their expectations. Compare your contract that you ended up signing with your expectations. You know, season ends, I want a new contract. How does this compare to what you envisioned?
I think the biggest difference between the Clash contract and the Dynamic contract is, well, one, I'll get a tour series this year, which is awesome. Clash was definitely like a smaller company. And I have nothing but good things to say about their discs, good things to say about the people over there. They always treated me great. But it was just time to like go to a bit bigger of a company who could pay me a bit more. So as far as like expectations, I didn't really have like expectations. Like, my agent, and I talked about it, like what we were kind of like looking for and stuff. But, I honestly don't even know how this compared to that. And I don't remember those conversations all that much, but they were like, hey, we're going to go for this. And I was like, sweet. Right. And so, it's definitely an increase from the Clash contract, but I mean, I feel like that's no shock from being like 40th or 50th in the world before, and then jumping up to 22nd in the Pro Tour standings. Like, yeah, that's kind of just, again, winning or being on coverage and stuff kind of like fixes a lot of that, a lot of like the notoriety stuff. Like sponsors want to be able to post about you, post about your finishes, post about, hey, like he's throwing our discs and he's finishing this well, right? So
I'm curious what your on-course expectations are for this year, because, you know, you're coming off, I have to sort on Statmando, but what, you had 1, 2, 3, 4 top 10s this year, plenty of top 20s. Are you thinking like I can win any given weekend and that's a goal? Like you're trying to win some events, or is it just like a step up into a top 10 finish on tour or something like that?
So yeah, so I guess my expectations really shifted at D-Glow last year. Like I'd played well at Des Moines. I was on lead card the final round at Des Moines. But I've played well at Des Moines in the past. Like that's a forehand friendly course. I have a decently large forehand. And so it's not that shocking that I've played well there. But D-Glow, like I don't like when I say I have like average tour distance, you need like bomber distance at D-Glow, right? Like in order to get to some of the landing zones comfortably. And I don't have bomber distance. Like I can't throw 550 consistently. I can't throw like all these like kind of crazy shots that like there's like the par 4, like up the hill, right? You go like fly and then you go up. Like I was barely getting there if I was getting there, right? And like that's like 2 full rips for me. Meanwhile, everybody else is throwing like base of the hill, super like hyzer up, and it's so annoying. But that kind of like reframed like my expectations, because I was going into the week and I was just like, my only goal this week is to not bogey. And I did great through the first round, except for one hole. I was like 8 down through 10, and I took what did I take? What's that? Wait, no, I was 8 down through like 13, and on 14's that like is it 14 or 15? 15's the par 5, right? Or par 4, old par 5. And I took a 8 on it, and I finished, I think 4 strokes back of Gannon.
Wow.
And I was like, if I just parred that hole, no, like what could have been, right?
The what ifs. Yeah.
Yeah. But then I like went birdie on 16, 17, 18, which I think I was like the only person to do that, like that entire tournament. So that was a little bit annoying, but, you know, stuff like that like happens. But that kind of proved to me, I was like, if you can win at D-Glow, you can win literally anywhere. Like, so I've had success at Idlewild. I've had success at, you know, Des Moines. And if you're comparing Idlewild and D-Glow, like they're the opposite sides of tour. And so, I think I could win anywhere.
So I just did a little math. Lifetime, your winnings at any disc golf tournament, 84,772. 36% of those earnings came from Des Moines Challenge. So like July 5th of this year forward, which is kind of crazy. Like you really put together like a super strong stretch. Like if you'd played that level the whole season, you probably would have finished top 10 on tour.
Yeah.
So obviously like, and that wasn't just like a couple tournaments, like that was a long chunk. That was months of disc golf. Obviously that has to just like raise the overall like belief in the game and what can happen moving forward. What do you feel like you need to work on still to keep getting better? Because you clipped 1040 rated this year as well. I think you're 1038 right now, which, you know, I don't know what that is at the moment. It's probably top 15.
Top 10.
Top 10. Yeah. So there you go. Top 10 rated in the world.
Not that I knew that.
No, of course not. And, you know, not very many people in the history of disc golf have touched 1040 rated. So what still needs to get better? Like when you look at the guys who are winning and you look at you and you think about like, how can I improve from a realistic standpoint? Because maybe 600 feet of throwing distance is not happening. What can you get better at?
Throwing 700 feet? No.
Gannon's out here throwing 800 on Instagram. So
yeah. I mean, yeah, it looks so far on Instagram. So, I mean, that's kind of crazy. No, I think just overall consistency, right? Like, I mean, there's so many tournaments out there where like it is nice to have 500, but like if you have 480 controlled like every time, you're gonna do fine, right? Like it might make the second shot harder, but typically like you'll be fine. So I don't know, just like everything. Like I was asked the same question by Nate at the Pro Tour Championship. I was on like chase card, I think, like the final round. And he was like, "What do you want to improve this off season?" I'm just like, "I just want to work and get better and just die." Like if I get like 2% better at everything, it's like that's going to translate to so many more birdies, right? So I I don't know if there's just one thing that I want to get better at. I want to keep improving like mentally. That would probably be like the best. That would probably be like the best thing.
Does your contract permit you to throw other House of Discs?
So I can throw Trilogy. So I can throw Dynamic, Latitude, and Westside.
Is there a cap on how many of any of those Trilogy you can throw?
Not to my knowledge.
You might get a phone call if you roll out with a full Latitude bag.
Exactly. So yeah. I don't think so. I think it's just like within reason. But I mean, Dynamic makes great discs. Like I've been loving I used to throw FD3s, right? And so I've been loving the Felon. I've been loving the EMAC Truth, right? Like that is the furthest
great disc
I've ever thrown in my life. It's crazy.
Furthest flying mid, you said?
Yeah, 100%. Like I was just thrown in the field. So like I've had a bit of an injury, but you know that's neither here nor there. So I haven't really thrown like a ton in the field with it. But like I was just throwing like maybe like 50% power, and it was like going like 380, 400, and I'm like, that's crazy, right? I don't throw mids 400 even if I'm ripping on them. Like that's insane. So maybe it's just my timing's getting better. I'm finally hitting 600. You know, like so.
This is the year.
What tournaments are you most excited for this season?
Definitely. Well, I guess Worlds. I was gonna say European Open, but that's not happening. Let's see here. I'm playing Crocal, I think. So I've heard great things about that course. So probably like the Europe swing. And then I always love the finishing stretch of tour, GMC, MVP, and then USDGC. That's probably like, yeah. That's where I'm going to make my money this year. So it's going to be great.
If you had to pick, and let's say like, I don't know, not just because they're your friend though, right? But like just generally, who's the best card mate? Like when you get your whole assignments, you're like, this is the guy. Yes, I'm stoked to play with this guy.
All right, so I had a guy pop in my head, but I realized that this is an awful idea, right? Because I would be so distracted, and I'm always so distracted whenever we play together. Usually, okay, and it's Silas Schultz. He's the most distracting person. Like, but he's so much fun to play with. I love playing practice rounds with him. Actually, yeah. So, all right,
is he just running his mouth the whole time?
He's just so happy. But like he gets frustrated sometimes, right? Like he wants to go out there and do well and stuff, but yeah.
It sounds like you're about to tell us a story.
Yeah. Okay. So I was playing at Preserve with him, and he's staying like an hour away from the course. Like there's like nowhere to stay near the course typically. And he's staying an hour away from the course. He's in traffic. Like there's 2-hour traffic, like from where he is, and he left like not with enough time, right? And so he gets there, and this is, I don't know, a few years ago, so you didn't have to be there 5 minutes before. So he calls me. I'm on his card, and it's like me and like some like other like young guys, right? And I asked the TD or the starter or whoever to put him on the back of the card because he was going to be late. And the starter TD, okay, not my decision, right? I just was there. But like he was like, yeah, like we're going to like slide him to the back of the card. He shows up like, with 30 seconds to spare. does like one of these, right? Like rotates, and then just rips like a 650-foot shot. Like
Oh my
it went
God.
so far. And like I was just, like he outdrove the entire card by like 100 feet, right? It was like at least 100 feet. And like it was just like that's the most insane thing. But like it was the most unserious round I've ever played in my life. It was crazy.
So when there's not money or something important on the line, you want to play with Silas.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome. Well, hey, thanks so much for giving us some time. Congrats on the new deal. Should be a super interesting season. You starting off? You kicking things off down in Florida?
Yep, that's the plan. Getting down to Florida soon. So I guess, 3 weeks, 4 weeks?
Yeah, I think, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just under a month. So
Awesome. All right. Well, Evan, thank you so much. Appreciate you coming on, and good luck this season.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right. Evan Smith with us here on The Upshot. We will be right back. Welcome back to The Upshot. Thanks again to Evan for stopping by. Josh, our first time talking with Evan. What'd you think?
You know, I'm going to be really honest for 1 second.
Normally,
Okay.
Josh just lies on the pod, so
I'm diplomatic, right? I'm diplomatic. Listen, everyone knows my takes. They know I'm saying what I think. But I typically try and be diplomatic. We started out, and Evan was a little bit short in his answers, a little bit more reserved. And I was like, okay, listen, even if he is a top player, the sponsorship market is not just about how you perform. It's about how you're able to brand yourself and market yourself. And so, we talked about the 4,000 Instagram followers, and I was like, part of it is how do you, display yourself? And he was very professional, very straight to the point. And as the interview kept going, you saw more and more and more of that personality come out. And the story with Silas at the end was just great. And he's making jokes. He's joking about his distance. And he opened up. And that's the Evan Smith. That second half Evan Smith needs to be what he does in press conferences, post-round interviews, on social medias, in disc release advertisements, all of it, where he's making jokes, having fun. I think the problem, Macbeth does this professional athlete, serious, I'm just going to do my interview thing. Most players should not do that. Most players need to have that personality come out because they don't have the laurels to rest on from their game that they can just be the professional athlete. And that personality came out, and it was so much fun talking to Evan. I'm so glad he came on. I think he's going to be a great fit at DD. I'm thrilled he gets the opportunity to be the top guy, but he needs to show that side to everyone else who doesn't know who Evan Smith is yet.
Second half, Evan Smith. Second half of the season, second half of the interview.
That's right.
He's killing
Just
it.
needs a minute.
I think I find him very interesting, and the idea, you think about the players who are at the top, the very top of the standings,
Mm-hmm.
and most of them can bomb.
Yeah.
And he's probably the has the least arm of anybody in the top 15. And it's just very interesting to me. His game's predicated on precision and avoiding mistakes, being really smart. I mean, he could be a top 5 putter on tour this season from Circle 1. If what he said is true, that he cleaned it up a bunch in the second half. I mean, he was already top 15, 87%. That's an elite number. And he's north of 30 from C2, which is very good. I mean, that's the cutoff for me for you're a great putter. So the putting is there, the shot shaping's there, and clearly he's been working on the mental game. I feel like so many pros neglect this. And he's clearly putting in the effort. And what did he say? He said he felt like his mental game was literally the best on tour.
Yeah. Yep. You know what he needs to do? He needs to take this I don't throw very far thing and he's got to like brand himself as like disc golf's Bubba Watson, right? I can't throw very far. I'm self-taught. I grew up just playing in the woods, and this is how I throw. The issue is like, Isaac also, like, he throws far, but Isaac shapes shots that no human could conceivably do. And I think Evan just has like a very solid all-around game that, could be replicable, and that sells discs, right? Don't sell the 14-speed driver. Go out and be like, yeah, I kind of struggle with hitting big distance. This is the disc I like to throw. It's a little more understable. Be the people's disc golfer. Like that, there's an opportunity there for him to do that and to kind of give disc or dynamic discs that like almost return to its roots. Like, remember, that's what dynamic disc did with Danny Lindell and the way that they used to brand themselves.
They were like a beginner's friendly outlet.
They're in Walmarts. Like, they're people are picking up their first discs at Walmart sometimes that are DD.
And now they're like, you got to get the latest and greatest. Mega Stable General, $32.99.
Evan Smith could be returned to those roots, and he should lean into that. He should. I think it'd be a perfect branding and marketing opportunity for him to fill.
Yeah. Yep. I think it's I just love the signing. I think it makes a ton of sense. I can't imagine it was like super expensive, and for him to be able to be the number one guy at DD, it's like just a great overall fit. And I think he's gonna, people are gonna start to remember that it's Evan Smith is not Evan Scott, is not Aiden Scott. I am.
Yeah. It took us a while, but we got there.
I wanted to make a joke. He's like, I've talked to Evan Scott, and I was like, I don't think the two of you have ever been seen in the same room together.
You should
have. All three of those guys are good players, by the way.
Yeah.
So should be a really interesting season. What's left? Ricky and Kona, right? Like, what happens there? And there's maybe one or two other. Do we get a Robert Burridge announcement yet?
Yeah, we did. He's at Prodigy.
Oh, we did?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think we talked about that last.
Did we?
On Tuesday.
No way.
Pretty sure he was on the list, wasn't he?
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think you're right.
I'm thinking
you're thinking of somebody else.
Now.
Or maybe we were, Heibenheimer with Prodigy.
But I thought the Prodigy announcement had Robert Burridge on it.
I don't think so.
All right. The other one, we don't know where Joel Freeman's going, right?
We have not heard about Joel Freeman.
Okay. Joel, that one to me is like one of the bigger ones that we're
Robert Burridge 2 days ago said big announcements coming soon.
Okay, I'm crazy. Don't listen to me.
So, I mean, I know it's hard to keep track. There's been so many things.
Yeah.
And who did you say? Oh, Joel Freeman. Let's see. I'm checking his Instagram. This just feels like the right time to like just check in and see what's going on. He still has sponsored by Innova on his Instagram page. What's up with he sold some mystery boxes a couple weeks ago.
That either makes me think
just nothing yet.
If he's selling a bunch of mystery boxes, I wonder if it's not open bag.
I would imagine that it is. I mean, he's already sponsored by Infinite. Like, that's from during his Innova time. I bet that's just like the most obvious thing. It's just like open up the bag and keep rolling that.
Sure.
All right. So that is going to do it for today's show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Next week, we are going to have our roundtable, State of the Industry roundtable. And I'm kind of glad we waited for like the dust to settle on the off season a little bit, and we can kind of go into this. We've got a month of 2025 already. We're getting ready for the season. We're going to have some awesome guests on to talk about like where are things, like what are we thinking about for the future of the industry? What are the sort of expectations for this coming 2025 season? Should be great. That's coming on Thursday. Tuesday, we are going to be away. I'm on vacation. Josh is at a conference, so we're going to take the day off. So we'll see you back here in a week. We'll also have a great Inside the Circle segment for you next week as well. So make sure you get your subscription right now. Great chance to lock in for a year and get all our rapid reacts and everything from the upcoming season. For Josh Mansfield, I'm Charlie Eisenhood saying so long, and we'll talk to you next Thursday right here on The Upshot.